champion once again now because of that win in Salt Lake. Just adding to his list of accomplishments. Going to be bringing a little bit of spice here as well. You know, he just can't play the standard old 60. He is going to be playing that memory capsule you're talking about. We are going to see that Gyarados coming out, and that is going to be so fun.
Definitely, and we're going to see that, and then the opponent is going to be Leif, Norquay, Pahl, and I'm excited to get things going here. We're going to see a Rapid Strike Malamar deck on the other side. Now on paper, I can see this one being a struggle for a deck that relies on 2 different water Pokemon that have abilities, but we'll see how this plays out. You know, Jolteon's ability does shut off Pokemon, water Pokemon's abilities, and when you're relying on Drizzile and Inteleon and Octillery, not the best spot to be in, but we'll see if Leif can kind of navigate through this matchup.
Yeah, just another note there. We also talk about often when you're playing Jolteon, you get that capsule down. You feel pretty good, but you're always worried about a boss's orders. That's not a card that's always featured in a deck like this. Single Strike Malamar really tries to optimize every point in their deck. Maybe you see some escape rope at sometimes, but the boss's count can be as low as 1.
Yep, and you got it exactly right.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of pressure on finding that for sure. So yeah, I'm just going to start off here with the quick ball and kick things off with a good old Bidoof in the active spot. Got that berry hanging out in the background of the art. Love the artwork on this card. But yeah, pretty standard opening turn. Just going to see a quick ball. You got to assume for Arceus V. You know, we've seen it 100 times at this point. You know, turn 1, your goal, get down the Arceus V, attach energy to it. Turn 2, you Starbirth, find whatever you need, and it kind of flows from there.
Yep. You can always accelerate onto another Arceus V or V-Star, or hey, you know, you got that Gyarados. He's pretty cool too.
Yeah, now Kyle, if you're in this spot and you see your opponent starts with that Rapid Strike Inkay, what's going through your head on how to approach the matchup?
Where's my Eevee? That's definitely a huge point. You know that you're going to see these water Pokemon really start flowing as early as the opening turn with perhaps Brawly or something like that. So these Pokemon can just hit the board, and if you let one Drizzile come down, you're going to let a lot more accelerate, and it can get real tricky. Fan of Waves.
All right, yeah, going to blow that double turbo energy straight to the bottom of the deck. Unfortunately for Leif, it does not look like this is going to be a very strong start. Usually, I think as you were mentioning, you know, you want to start off with that Brawly on the first turn if you can, or at the very least attack with Sobbles, keep calling to fill up your bench. But it looks like there may not be any way to pull that off. So going to kick things off with a level ball. It's not disastrous. You know, still going to have ways to search out a couple basic Pokemon, but this Rapid Strike Malamar deck is all about building up that big hand and then using that Rapid Strike Tentacles, getting big knockouts, and the next turn you fill it back up and keep going, and it's kind of like a cycle. And it all kind of starts off with the first 1 or 2 turns, right? If you don't fill up your bench, give yourself a lot of options, then it can be difficult to string together those big hands. So Leif maybe a bit under pressure here. But I don't know, Kyle. What do you think? How's this one going to go?
Yeah, the opening hand really speaks because you need to get those Pokemon down early. You'll also need to have just something to start looking through your deck, and we don't see it right now. We see a couple of Malamar and, of course, the wrong evolution in that Inteleon. If you don't spin through your deck, use this Fog Crystal and try to help yourself out. That's maybe one extra card that you're going to be waiting behind trying to get a setup.
Yeah, now, interesting choice there from Leif. Had another Fog Crystal in hand and could have opted to go for another Inkay, for example. But because there was the Fan of Waves, you think it's not too likely that my opponent will be able to knock out, you know, my Sobble this turn. So maybe that Fan of Waves buys a turn. So the next turn you can simply retreat, keep calling, and get set up from there. So tech cards like Fan of Waves, even though sometimes they can get stuck in your hand and be really frustrating in opening turns, sometimes they just buy you a turn and it really changes the entire dynamic of the match.
Yeah, the Leaf's definitely in a position where he needs a turn, and he was able to find it in that way. And we see now Andrew, he's got a pretty great setup of his own. Imagine if he was able to keep that energy on board. This could have gotten really nasty. Do see the Eevee come down too, though, so this is going to be really nice here. almost everything set up. Just now it's time to use that Starbirth ability, get through the deck a little more, and you got to be thinking eventually Jolteon with that capsule is going to be coming down, and this could get pretty wild.
Yeah, and this is where you see just how absurdly strong that Starbirth V-Star power is. You know, even though Leif started off with a fan of waves, looked like maybe bought a turn. Look at this, and now we're going to see the V-Star power searching for any 2 cards, and we do see Melanie, and there was a water energy in the discard pile. So just like that, Arceus V-Star all powered up, can also search for a switch or an air balloon just to guarantee the attack, and just like that, you thought you might be safe, but here comes Arceus.
Yeah, this is wild, just being able to accelerate that energy just because he was able to get 1 water energy into the discard pile. And we can see now also the second Arceus V, so it's a pretty optimal attacker in this spot. You don't need to do a ton of damage to get knockouts, and 280 hit points is a lot to work through if you're a Malamar player, especially with a setup as poor as this opener here.
Yep, and with no Inkay in play, you can't even threaten any sort of real attack here. So this is a brutal opening here, but do have Sobble. You can keep calling this turn. Did draw another energy for the turn, so can also Fog Crystal for another Inkay. And yeah, at this point, all you can do is keep calling. You do get 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon, which pretty much every basic Pokemon you play in this deck is a Rapid Strike Pokemon. So you fill up the bench, hope for the best, and cross your fingers that your opponent does not play down a Jolteon with a memory capsule.
Yeah, no, that's basically game over there for Leif if that were to happen, and he's going to be looking for that. He knows that he's very limited at this point. It's going to have to be Drizzile or Octillery or some way to find one of those Pokemon off the top. Maybe you do find that Cynthia's Ambition or something huge to bail yourself out. But you gotta be hoping that the top of the deck is going to cooperate and that your opponent can't shut down everything that you do.
Yep, and we do see Gyarados VMAX, a card we haven't seen a ton of, but last week it did have a 2nd place finish at a regional championship. And there we do see one of the downfalls of this Rapid Strike Malamar deck. Sometimes you have to spread yourself a bit too thin, leave yourself with just 1 Inkay in play, and then boss's orders can come down, and it's almost like you don't even need the Jolteon. You just knock out all the Inkay.
Yeah, there's one big issue with this deck, and it's if you don't have Inkay, you don't have Malamar.
Yep.
And of course, just being limited in what Leif has been able to find as of yet has really been a struggling point. Inkay is continuing to fall, and oh no, you really start wondering, is that capsule there? Are we going to game 2?
Yeah, at what point, if you're Leif, do you look at this and say, okay, I could play this out for a while, but you know, it's just not worth it. It's probably not going to happen. At what point do you make that decision?
I think 3 prize cards down, if you're not able to score a knockout, that's when you start to go, okay, this is just not going to happen because you're going to lose the prize exchange at that point. So there is a little bit of wiggle room here, but if we don't see an Inkay benched or a decent top deck, this is going to be really hard.
Brawly, not what we're looking for, and yep, that's going to do it. Leaf's just going to say, I'm done with this one. Not a great start. Let's move on to the next game.
Got some valuable information. We got to play on stream for 7 minutes, and now it's time to rethink and go, okay, I can win in a matchup like this. It's going to be difficult, but I got to get a decent setup. I've got to find these Pokemon, and I got to get that boss's orders in my hand so that I have an answer to a card like Jolteon.
And now, after the first game, if you're in Leaf's position, what's going through your head? I mean, obviously your start was horrendous, but then you also saw your opponents playing Jolteon, so that's got to get your wheels turning a little bit, or gears turning. So going into the next game, I mean, what kind of plan can you even put together? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, how am I going to win this next game?
Yeah, the opening turn is going to be huge. Just getting as many Pokemon down as you can, and you just have to hope that you don't see the turn 2 Jolteon. If you see the turn 2 Jolteon, there is no answer. Yeah, you have to draw into that boss's orders raw, and that's going to be tough. You need to have that Drizzile down, and you need to just get that early knockout by way of triple shuffle away from a Malamar. Get that Jolteon off the board as fast as you can, and then you start playing your typical game where you start taking big knockouts on some Pokemon Vs and V-Stars.
Yep, we did see Ross Cawthon playing this Rapid Strike Malamar deck recently, playing a bunch of Pokemon Catcher instead of Boss's Orders, but this is kind of a more standard list, I would say, just having the one Boss's Orders, and yeah, no Tool Scrapper or anything like that, so yeah, you just kind of hope that you never run into someone who's mad enough to put Jolteon and Memory Capsule in their deck, but sometimes matchups are the roughest part of a tournament. You never know what you're going to go up against. You're hoping you're going to face all these, things with big Pokemon V and VMAX that you can take multiple prizes on easily, and then somebody shows up with a Jolteon.
Yeah, of course, Andrew, one Jolteon down, double the doof.
Yeah.
Andrew was playing this Rapid Strike Malamar deck in, I believe, Indianapolis, and he was playing some interesting cards in there himself. But maybe he got some information just from playing that tournament. I don't think it went too great for him, and he's just maybe he got capsuled at one point and it's like, whoa, this is pretty good.
So we do have a mulligan from Leif at this point. So he's going to be shuffling in, drawing a new hand of 7 cards, and then the opponent will be able to draw an extra card before the game starts.
Oh, the hand was so good, but it didn't have a basic.
Oh, actually, I guess I forgot to shuffle prize cards back into his deck, so whoops. Good thing that got caught. So no mulligan, except now there was one, so. All right, we'll get it all sorted out.
These look familiar.
So I think a big question playing this Rapid Strike Malamar deck, which I think has kind of been answered at this point, but would you choose to go first or second with this deck?
Yeah, I think a lot of players are starting to lean towards second. Just playing that Brawly on the opener is so important because that's something that you can always rely on. Of course, if you do find that Sobble, you can just keep calling and get those Pokemon down. And that opens up your world to find that Cynthia's Ambition earlier and just draw into all these cards. Eventually, your deck just plays itself and you find all these amazing tools. And then you just have to start piecing together knockouts.
All right, well, we're going to kick things off game number 2, and indeed, Leif did choose to go second. So Andrew's going to kick off game number 2, starting with that Galarian Zigzagoon. Got the Arceus V down, and looks like another solid opening for our Salt Lake City regional champion. Got an Arceus V, got a Quick Ball, got an Energy Attachment. What more could you ask for?
It's not going to be Bidoof. Yeah, this we already see the Jolteon in hand, so the Eevee coming down, that really just leads into that scenario that I was talking about earlier, where if you get it down on turn 2, it's going to be so much harder to find that boss's orders. So finding the early Eevee is absolutely crucial. You could also potentially find that Arceus V-Star on the following turn, and just everything starts to come together.
Yeah, I don't think this really changes the dynamic, but something that may factor in is, if you do choose to go second against, this particular deck, there's an opportunity for your opponent to get Jolteon with Memory Capsule down before you're able to ever use Octillery or a Drizzile to use Shady Dealings. So maybe that factors in. Maybe you just hope it doesn't happen because it's going to be a rough matchup either way. But another thing to factor into the equation.
Well, Andrew definitely has it. There is a Jolteon, there's an Ultra Ball, there's an additional card. Everything is lined up on Andrew's side. Even though it's not going to be the prettiest, it's going to be everything that he needs. Leif, on the other hand, now, we see the triple Brawly, so much better opener than game 1.
Yeah, at least it's full of Rapid Strike cards this time. I think just trying to decide, should I Brawly and keep calling? That way I get a full bench. It does open yourself up to something like Avery, which was really popular around EUIC.
For like 1 or 2 tournaments, yeah.
Yeah, we're starting to see even 2 copies of Avery in some decks, and I think that's kind of faded away at this point. Just not necessary in a lot of matchups, but that is always something that runs through your mind. This is one of the decks that really gets hurt by it the most because you always want multiple Inkay, you need multiple Sobble, you want to have the Remoraid out so you can evolve into Octillery, and whenever somebody drops an Avery on you when you got a full bench, it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, Avery in combination with a card like Escape Rope has been something that's so brutal because you just leave one of each on your bench, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to lose one, and now the game's over. So, but I don't know if we're going to see that out of Andrew just yet. He did have to play a lot of different cards to squeeze in the Jolteon line here, so it does make it a little trickier in the deck build.
All right, well, this will be the fateful turn. So we do see Jolteon right off the bat, and yep, Evolution Incense to go with it. That means Arceus V-Star on the way, and that Starbirth V-Star power lets you search for any 2 cards, put them into your hand. The question is, does he have one of the cards he needs already? Because you need double Turbo Energy, Memory Capsule, and a way to move the Galarian Zigzagoon out of the active. So if he has one of those, he can Starbirth for the other 2, but as to Marnie, so we'll have to draw one of those pieces off these 5 cards.
Yeah, it'd be very nice to find that. You could get the attack and lock down all those water abilities. And I don't see it.
All right, well, now it becomes a question. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but do you just go for the attack, or do you make sure you get the Jolteon?
I'm going for Crobat, and I'm just pushing.
All right.
Let's go. Let's keep moving.
That is the third option, yeah.
Well, if Crobat wants to come out and play, we'll see.
Yep, Crobat V, one of those cards that's kind of gone in and out of the format. Obviously, an extremely strong ability with Dark Asset. Lets you fill your hand up to 6 cards. But, of course, it is a liability. Right? It's a V, gives up 2 prize cards, only has 180 HP, which is a very bad number to have against Arceus V-Star now.
Yeah.
Even with the reduction from double Turbo Energy, it's just an easy knockout on a Crobat V. So those kind of support Pokemon, like Crobat, Lumineon, Eldegoss, all extremely good, but now they are much bigger liabilities than kind of they used to be.
All right. Well, it looks like Andrew's going to be content with this slower approach. Has a second Marnie in hand, too, so maybe you just use the Starbirth now and you find the energy that you like, because that's going to be one of the trickier things to find, that double turbo. You find the memory capsule, you lock in that Jolteon, and it's going to be really tough for Leif to have the answer to a Jolteon at this stage.
Yep, so yeah, the question is, like, I think obviously you're going to grab a double Turbo Energy. The question is, memory capsule or a way to attack this turn? I think both are valid. I could see long-term just memory capsule shutting down your opponent's entire deck.
Yeah.
Could be a good way to go. So it looks like the 2 choices were double Turbo Energy and the memory capsule. So we are going to see Jolteon's Thunderous Awakening ability go into effect. Very strange and narrow ability. Only works when it has the exact card memory capsule attached to it, and it takes away all abilities on water Pokemon. So we will not be seeing Drizzile's Shady Dealings, Octillery's Rapid Strike Search, and that is kind of the entire engine of this deck.
That's how this deck works, absolutely. Well, we saw that Andrew was trying to buy some turns by way of going for that that memory capsule on the Jolteon and slow down his opponent from getting some searches out. Leif has the same thing in that that Fanta Waves, maybe not as strong long term, but being able to slow down Andrew maybe that one extra turn is what Leif is going to need in order to get things going.
I think Leif has exactly enough cards to knock out this Galarian Zigzagoon, but it would leave him with 0 cards in hand if I'm looking correctly. So it's one of those spots where it's like this. I don't know if this is getting any better. There may be a Karina's Focus in hand, though.
Yeah, Karina's drawing up would be very nice.
There we go. Okay. Thankfully, not going to go down to a 0-card hand.
Finding some additional Rapid Strike Pokemon could retreat and attack to take this knockout here and try to draw into something off the prize cards to get this rolling, but every Malamar is going to be that much more important as this game progresses, because you need to have that in combination with the boss's orders if you want to get access to your water abilities.
Yeah, normally this would be a fantastic draw for Leif. Like, drew into Level Ball, got a lot of Rapid Strike cards, have an Inteleon for next turn, can use all these Shady Dealings, probably get your Octillery set up. Because of that Jolteon, you're just sitting here like, now what? I can get 1 prize this turn, and then how am I ever going to get enough Rapid Strike cards to knock out an Arceus V-Star?
That's a lot.
And yeah, just decides to pass the turn and hope that Andrew can't get a knockout.
Air Balloon was such a good draw.
Yeah, it still does need to find the double turbo. Again, that fan of waves coming into play. But, I mean, you even feel like, at this point, Andrew's got all the time in the world. There's not a ton of pressure, although we don't see a double turbo, I don't think. You can see this is where those both Bidoof in the prize cards coming back to hurt. If you had Industrious Incisors at your disposal here, perhaps you could dig a little deeper, find a double turbo energy, but as it stands, I think we're kind of at a standstill here.
Yep. It's at least there is a supporter for the follow-up. I believe we see the professor's research in hand. So going to be able to continue to push is Andrew later on. And Leif is really looking at that Drizzile like, hey, if you could do your job right now, we'd be in a good spot. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's a question. Do you just evolve one of the Sobble into a Drizzile? Then somewhere down the line, if you're able to knock out Jolteon, then you have access to Inteleon right away. One thing you do have to be careful of is not to evolve the active, because then it would not be a Rapid Strike Pokemon anymore, which then the Spiral Energy gets discarded.
That'd be bad.
Mistake many of us, maybe myself, have made playing online before. But always got to keep that in mind. Sobble is a Rapid Strike Pokemon, but the Shady Dealings Drizzile is not. So very easy mistake to make. Same thing with Tower. It's like, oh, not a Rapid Strike Pokemon. Yep.
Everything else is, so it feels right, but it's not. Yeah, we could also see the evolution come down and eventually just an Inteleon, even if it doesn't have an ability come down, and then you just have that scoop up net option for later trying to take a big knockout. You can just surprise your opponent with that, but it feels really bad playing these Pokemon down and not using one of the best abilities in the game.
Yep. So if your Leif here, is there any merit to just swinging in and trying to get a prize card? Like maybe hit something off of your prizes, because your hand, it's not doing it.
Yeah, no, this is valid because you already have the Inkay with the energy down, so there is a little bit of hope for another Malamar to come down. Maybe you do find a card like Cynthia's Ambition, you draw up, and then you have a Malamar ready to attack on the following turn. It's a lot to ask for.
God, let me tell you, none of those prizes are good.
No.
Maybe if you take the top left somehow and get the Karina's focus, but all those things are just, there's a big X over them because of Jolteon.
That is not good. It is well, it's not even 40 additional damage. It's just bad.
All right, so still no double turbo energy from Andrew. So obviously top priority is going to be finally attacking. Typically with Arceus deck, you're attacking turn 2. That's kind of the whole appeal of the deck. It's so consistent because of Starbirth, being able to search for any 2 cards. Typically that ends up with you doing an attack, but in this case, went for the memory capsule, rightfully so. Didn't pan out, and now maybe this professor's research finally finds a double turbo energy, and he kicks things off.
Yep, we did see Arceus V-Star go to the active spot, so really banking on this here. It would be really nice. And does not find it.
We'll see how much it takes for an Arceus deck to lose when it has Jolteon in play.
We could honestly see another Jolteon come down this turn, too.
Yeah.
There is another memory capsule. If you just felt like going for it, I think there is one in the prize cards, if I'm not mistaken, so maybe that is something that would slow that down. But
yep. Yeah, missing this attack does open up a window here for Leif. If he were able to get...
Oh, hold up. Do we have active capsule shenanigans?
Oh, if there were another memory capsule, yeah, you could Trinity Charge, yeah. Didn't think about that. But missing an attack here, if Leif is able to find Boss's Orders here, I think it would have to be a top deck, but Boss's Orders knockout on Jolteon would be a possibility. I don't think it is, though. I think there's 2 Drizzile in hand, which... normally, amazing. Get to search for trainer cards.
Oh.
This situation, terrible. They're not Rapid Strike Pokemon.
That feels so bad. And Andrew knows the hand is horrible, but he's got a Marnie in hand, so the only way he can accelerate and maybe, oh, he's got the research, thankfully. Oh, that's going to make things a lot easier here now.
Yep. And I think, assuming one singular energy card is drawn off of the 7 cards from Professor's research, we'll probably start to see this game spiral out of control. There we see Professor's research discarding a Marnie. Leif's like, hey, I would have appreciated if you played that one.
No, I like that one.
But 7 cards, and yep, there is not the typical way you would do this, but 3 manual water energy attachments to Arceus V-Star over 3 turns. Still does get you to Trinity Nova. And then we're going to see this knockout accelerating 3 energy. And now for the rest of the game, every turn, Andrew's going to be getting an attack off. And because of how the Rapid Strike Malamar deck works, it's going to be a knockout every single turn. So now the pressure's on. Yeah,
every one of these Pokemon will continue to get knockouts. We even see the energy acceleration. There's another double turbo in hand, so even if this Arceus V-Star were to fall, there's another one ready to go.
Even drew the Jolteon off the prize.
Oh, no.
Oof.
That's a lot better than Leif's prize card.
Yep. So, yeah, unfortunately, just passing the turn. There's a lot of close, great matchups in the standard format right now. Most of them are pretty back and forth. There's not a ton of like blowout matchups. But if you were going to pick one, I think anything with Jolteon and Memory Capsule against this, yeah. And Leif's just like, I don't want to torture myself anymore. Let's just save our time, take a breather, forget this ever happened.
Yep, it's going to be a quick one here in round 4 with Andrew Kenneth taking the victory. And that has to feel good, especially when you've already had a lot of success at these regional events. You know the feeling of getting to that 3-0, that 4-0, and being able to take a quick one on stream is really nice.
Yeah, and that's one of those losses that almost doesn't even feel bad. It's like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you lost quickly, you lost decisively. It wasn't anything that you did wrong. It's just like, all right, those happen. It's not like you made a game-losing misplay or anything like that, and it's something you got to think about going into the next round. It's just like, all right, I got destroyed.
Yeah,
let's hope for something better in the next round.
If anybody plays Jolteon with the capsule, I'm just going to take that loss. Maybe I run into it once or twice. Hopefully never, but you do find it. You do find it on stream, and it does happen here. So a little unfortunate for Leif, but of course the deck's still very strong at a decent record here at 3-1 now, so it certainly can continue on and progress even further in the tournament.
Yeah. So digging deeper into Andrew's deck a little bit. So obviously Arceus V-Star, fantastic, been doing well throughout all these regionals. Jolteon Memory Capsule. Makes sense. I can see why people started playing that. But what's with the Gyarados? What's going on with Gyarados VMAX? Why do you think players are starting to gravitate towards that as kind of the secondary attacker?
Yeah, it's got a lot of hit points, and being able to make use of that capsule in a secondary effect is nice. You can go ahead and play that onto your Gyarados, and you can start using some understage attacks. There's a really good one where you get angry and you deal a lot of damage, but there's also some discarding of energy cards from the initial attack. There's some big damage output from a 5 energy attack, so you can do a lot with this Gyarados deck, and it's a range that Arceus hasn't always had. You're generally being capped at that 180 to 200 mark. Choice Belt trying to get you to some additional markers. Gyarados just pushes through all of that and maybe takes bigger knockouts that you weren't usually going to get.
Yeah, and I think there's also something we saw a little bit last week with Corviknight VMAX. Hitting 240 is an interesting number with Gyarados VMAX's Max Tyrant. With the Choice Belt, you get to 270, and then with Galarian Zigzagoon, you get to 280, which is perfect for knocking out an opposing Arceus V-Star. So, there was kind of a joke early on. It's like you can just play anything with Arceus, and sometimes it feels like that. But there are reasons why we're seeing Gyarados VMAX now and all these different partners. I know it's sometimes not exciting to see Arceus V-Star in so many different decks, but it is kind of fun to see all the different options, all the different partner Pokemon V you can play beside it.
Yeah, and this might be the last time that Gyarados does have this opportunity. We're going to see a new set coming later on, and we're going to see a lot of different partners. Maybe Arceus just starts to fall away a little bit more than it currently is because it's in a really high standing right now. So just being able to give it that one last opportunity, especially when it's just a really good card right now, it makes sense in the meta. That has to